Hey, Warrior Saints, Father Chris here. Today I want to do a first crack at a series on what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a man? If you watch some of our earlier videos, you notice there's a distinction between a male and a man. And so what does it mean to be a man? I think the best place to start is in the garden, in Eden, with God's creation. In the garden, this paradise, God creates Adam. Adam, in Hebrew, means man. That's the name. That's what the name means. God starts the story by telling us that he creates man. And he has a certain set of expectations. A lot of blessings, a lot of great things. He gives man the full garden. He gives him creative powers. You know what that means? It means that in the garden, as Adam was given the instruction to name all of the animals and all of the creation, God shared his creative powers with the man. But he gave him this instruction, and he said, do whatever you want to do, but there's one tree I want you to stay away from. Now, many people want to philosophize or try to theologize about what the idea behind that tree is, and what did that tree mean? Why was it called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? The truth of it is, the simple message of Genesis is that God gave a commandment that was unto life, to do what God says and you will live. Don't do what God says and it will lead to death. And man betrayed that commandment and they ate from the tree. You know the story. The serpent tricked Eve. Eve takes the fruit, she eats, she passes to Adam, and both realize that they were naked and they hid themselves from God in the garden because they knew they had transgressed his commandment. It may not be that exciting, or it may not be that theologically poignant of a point. However, that's the meaning of the Genesis text. That's what it means when God creates, says don't touch, and they disobey, that listening to God's commandments leads to life. Disobeying them leads to chaos, disorder, and ultimately death. So mankind has been called by God to be great. To be great necessarily implies that we abide by his commandments. The world wants us to not abide by those commandments. The world wants us to be slothful, lazy, make excuses, we're victims, we hate this, we don't like that, everything else is someone else's fault, none of it is me, and so we don't take as men, any responsibilities. We don't take any accountability for our lives, and we pass blame all over the place. But the problem is we end up feeling lost, broken, despondent, despair, sad, broken. I mean, all these things. And we want to blame our wives. We want to blame our children. Sometimes we blame our bosses. Sometimes we blame our daddy that he didn't show us enough love, or whatever it may be. And all of a sudden we find that we're really just like sad about it in our own selves, in our own lives. And we feel lost. It's a sad thing. It really is. Jesus Christ, however, shows us a different way. Something different. Something better. Something that actually works. So, there's a great story in the Gospel of John. In the very first chapter, Jesus has appeared after the opening, what's called the prologue of the Gospel of John. He appears right before his baptism. And this guy Philip comes up to him and he says, oh, this is the one. This is the Messiah. This is the one whom is going to be the King of Israel, who's going to save it, fix us, make everything right. And so Philip runs to get his buddy Nathanael. He says, Nathanael, come on, we found the one. Much like Morpheus when he found Neo, he said, this is the one. Christ is a little bit better than Neo, but you get the image. So Nathanael says, hey, Philip, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip says to him, come and see. Come on, let's go. Go with me to see this Jesus of Nazareth, and let's see if he's the one who can set us free. They go to Jesus. They approach Christ. And Christ, in a moment, reveals his divinity to Nathanael. And Nathanael says, you're the one. We recognize you are the one. And Jesus then says to them, hey guys, follow me. Follow me. Where I go, you go. What I do, you do. The life that I live, you live. And therefore, the outcome of my life will also be the outcome of your life. And at the end of the story of the Gospel of John, the tomb is empty. That's the message of the Gospel of John, of the Gospel, that Jesus calls them from come and see, and it ends in the empty tomb. It ends with life risen from the ashes, risen from the dead, right? And all he said to us is, follow me. And what that means is, for men, to end in that empty tomb, to end in success, to end in greatness means what? Follow Christ. It works, right? It works. He did it, and he promised it to us. It's not just one of those things where he said it and it didn't matter and like it was idle talk, haki as we say, idle talk. It works to follow Christ. Adam didn't do it, and he ended up kicked out of the garden and returned to the dust from the earth of which he was taken. Christ follows this way and ends in the empty tomb with new life that is unending, perfection. Now, he said, follow me and do it, right? So we're going to follow him to do it. What's on that road? What's in between come and see with Philip and Nathanael and the empty tomb? Only one road. Only one thing in the middle, the cross. Death. Christ gives himself freely so that through death, he can end in life. Not the other way around. It's not that it starts with life and it ends with death, and that somehow death is totally the end of the story. It's that through death, life can be born anew. It's like purging off all of that old, broken, sinful humanity that Christ had united himself with. Dead on the cross. Done, gone, obliterated. And it rises in the person of Jesus, who is fully human and also fully the Son of God. And he says, like we just talked about, if you follow him through the cross, you will find new life. So what does that mean for us, guys? I mean, if we're going to be men, what does it mean to be a man? It means to follow Christ. What does it mean to follow Christ? It means to follow the way of the warrior saint. What is the way of the warrior saint? It's practical, biblical, and crucifixional living. Practical, biblical, crucifixional living. That means that we too have to live the life of the cross in this life so that we can experience that same power of the kingdom of God present in this life, not just worried about what comes in the age to come. God will take care of that. But in this life, if we live a crucifixional life, we can experience some of that new life, that resurrected life, that warrior saint life today. So what does that look like? When we say to be crucifixional, what does that mean? I'm going to give you a very, very simple metaphor. It's not that exciting. In fact, it's kind of mundane, but it'll make it clear. Let's just say that we consider part of being great, being healthy. I want to be healthy. You cannot be healthy and eat a bag of Doritos every day. I mean, you just can't do it, right? It doesn't work. The two they're not compatible. So somehow you have to be crucifixional in your own life. Here it is. Crucifixional in your own life when it comes to the bag of Doritos, right? That means don't eat the Doritos. I mean, it's simple. Do you see it? You want to be healthy, Doritos don't work. You want to be healthy, you have to exercise and you have to eat right. It's that simple, right? It's the putting to death, or even the allowing myself to be put to death, the ego that is in me, the I that is in me, the self-focus that is in me, so that I can begin to focus on other and focus on greatness. It starts to work and you see it and it happens. It happens with Doritos. It happens in our jobs. Do we give all that we can give? Can we give just a little bit more? Do we have to fight with our boss? Perhaps, you're right. I mean, you may be right in some of the disputes you have with your boss, but are there different ways to handle it? Can you think outside the box? Can you try something new? Can you be creative? I don't know. There are different things we can do. Does it happen with our wives? Do we come home at the end of the day after a long, hard day working in whatever our career may be, whether it's our own job or working for someone else, and then all of a sudden we expect this woman to just dote on us? Look, she's been home all day long fighting that good fight, raising children, taking care of home, or whatever, whatever the wife may do. I mean, I know that many of them work, which makes it even tougher. As they're coming home from a long, hard day at work, you still expect them to cater to you? Where's your sacrifice in that? Where's your crucifixional life in that, right? Do you spend time with your kids Saturdays, Sundays, after liturgy? You just want to watch football? You just want to sit on your couch and relax? Here's a small person in the world who's someday going to be something, who's someday going to lead the world perhaps, and you have an opportunity to help teach and train and instruct them, and you just rather sit around and relax? I mean, look, I love to relax too. Life is busy, it's hard, I get it. But if we're being crucifixional, those small people need us. We need to help raise them. If you don't raise them, the world's gonna, and I'm not sure you want that. Brothers, look, it's pretty simple. It's so simple. It's really hard, I got that, but it's really simple. What does it mean to be a man? It means to follow Christ. What does it mean to follow Christ? It means to walk on the way of the warrior saint. And that means to put to death in ourselves through a crucifixional life, a life that puts to death all of those self-focused things so that it can be focused on other people, so that I can put to death in me self-focus and ego so that I have time to look at other, so that we can help uplift them and build them up. The good news of it goes to the cross, for sure. There's only one way. But the good news, nay, I'd say the great news, is that at the end, there's new life. It doesn't mean that we can't experience that newness, that manness now. So that in some real sense, as God created Adam in the garden, God made the very first man to be a man, and all of the shortcomings that he had and those after, even down to me to this very day, we might transcend that and we might become a new man. One who follows Christ, one who resembles Christ, one who lives the Christ-like life, one who walks on the way of the warrior saint. Until next time, I hope you keep walking on the way of the warrior saint. See you soon.